Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of Jolly Talks. We are covering the NFL draft right now, going division by division. We started with the AFC East yesterday, talked about the Bills, the Patriots, the Jets, and the Dolphins. As you can see from my Jaguars hat, I am no longer a Patriots fan after they drafted Mac Jones in the first round. Today is Tuesday, May 4th. I don't care about Star Wars, so no, I'm not going to say what everyone else says on this day. Don't care at all, so I'm going to move on. Today, we got the AFC East on, AFC East. Already said that. AFC South on the docket. Going to get into the Jaguars a little bit later. We got the Colts, we have the Titans, and we have the Texans. And I have these in opposite order of where I wanted to start because I specifically wanted to start with the Texans. The Tennessee. Wow, I am off my game tonight. The Tennessee Texans. Tennessee Texans. All right. The Houston Texans did not have a first or second round draft pick. So they finally came up. They finally decided to draft somebody in the third round, and who did they take? Quarterback Davis Mills. If that doesn't tell you something, I don't know what does. They grabbed Tyrod Taylor out of free agency, and they drafted Davis Mills in the third round. I'm not saying Deshaun Watson isn't playing football this year, but I'm also not saying Deshaun Watson isn't playing football this year. The Texans had traded away their first-round pick to the Miami Dolphins for Laremy Tunsil, the offensive tackle. Bad move, left the new regime in quite a spot. The former GM, Bill O'Brien, had destroyed everything this team had for draft picks. They only had 5 picks in this entire draft. Out of 256 players, they had 5. It seemed like they spent more time in free agency, and they were willing to sign anybody that wanted to play for them at a cheap rate. They signed something like 32 guys out of free agency, which is absolutely astronomical for any team to do. Martin in the comments says they're going to have to start Mills or Taylor. Most likely, I'd hate to be a Texans fan right now. So let me tell you a little bit about Davis Mills, because I don't hate that pick. I don't hate it at all. I don't hate Davis Mills at all. I think he actually, in the right system, might be able to be a sustainable quarterback in the NFL. He was the top-rated quarterback coming out of college in 2017, and he got his starting job at Stanford over KJ Costello. Costello went down with an injury. Mills came in, and there was supposed to be a quarterback competition for this previous season before Costello transferred out to Southern Miss. I believe it was Southern Miss. The only problem is, right now there's very little tape on him, so the Texans don't actually know fully what they got in Davis Mills. And he has below-average pocket mobility. That's not a good thing to hear a quarterback have. Reminds me a lot about Lamar Jackson. His pocket mobility, so his in the pocket mobility, being able to move around the pocket, not leaving the pocket, absolute garbage. I'm saying that about Lamar Jackson. I'm saying that about Davis Mills. Davis Mills can't extend plays outside of the pocket like Lamar Jackson can, though. Davis Mills does have a great throwing motion. Actually, probably the second or third best throwing motion in this entire draft class. The problem with having a good throwing motion is you get a little cocky going deep, and Davis Mills falls into that. He tosses the ball downfield into a little bit too much traffic every now and again. So they got to get that under control. If I'm the Texans right now, I'm starting Tyrod Taylor for the year, and I'm seeing where things go. Davis Mills is nowhere near NFL ready at this point. I'm not saying he should be NFL ready. The guy's only started something like, 12 college games? There's no chance he's ready for the NFL yet. Do I think this was also a reach of a pick for your first pick in the draft in the third round? Yeah, we're 67 picks into the draft, and how many quarterbacks went off the board before him? A good amount. They really didn't have a choice. Somebody else was going to take him. And if they wanted a quarterback in this class that meant something, that was the guy to take. They could have waited for Sam Ehlinger. I'll get this. Ehlinger. We're going to go with Ehlinger. He's in one of the other teams that we talked about. They also drafted a wide receiver out of Michigan named Nico Collins. That was so Davis Mills was the third pick of the third round. Nico Collins was the 26th pick of the third round. Nico Collins is a very interesting specimen. In 2018, he had 38 receptions for 632 yards. In 2019, he had 37 receptions for 729 yards. 19.9 per average in 19, 16.7 per average in 18. Opted out of the 2020 season. His speed compared to his size is absolutely astronomical. The guy has speed. The guy has size. The guy has the physical capabilities. He's going to be a better version of what the Patriots were supposed to get in N'Keal Harry. Problem is, Patriots didn't get that in N'Keal Harry. Nico Collins, because of that speed that he has over N'Keal Harry, will probably have a better career if he has a solid to, let me rephrase, a average to above average quarterback throwing him the ball. Tyrod Taylor and Davis Mills are not those guys. They had far more free agents signed this year than anybody else. So let's take a look at this real quick, guys. This is just the key free agents that they signed. Quarterback Tyrod Taylor, running backs Mark Ingram and Philip Lindsay, wide receiver Chris Conley and Andre Roberts. They traded for Marcus Cannon. They traded for Shaq Lawson. They got Malik Collins. They got Christian Kirksey and Desmond King. Right there, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I just named 10 of their off-season moves. We'll call it off-season moves because a couple of them were trades. And they didn't really re-sign many people. There's definitely a problem in Houston, and we don't know what it is. Is the problem Bill O'Brien? Or is the problem, I'm blanking on his name right now, the religious dude that they have that shouldn't be running a football team? He crip walks into the sermon. The guy's ridiculous. Can't remember his name right now. Overall, I would absolutely, unequivocally give the Texans a solid off-season grade of a D. Nothing impressive. I mean, there's not much they could do. Players don't want to play. Big name players don't want to play there. Their quarterback, who knows what's going to happen with him. And their first draft pick was in the third round. It's a rough time to be in the Houston Texans or be a Houston Texans fan. Let's move on to the Indianapolis Colts, where they made one of the biggest splashes of the offseason. Carson Wentz is now an Indianapolis Colts quarterback. So, what does Carson Wentz need to succeed in Indianapolis? Carson Wentz needs weapons. Carson Wentz needs stability. Carson Wentz needs to know he is the guy moving forward. All right, there's only one problem. They're forgetting the biggest, most important part of this. Carson Wentz needs weapons. They re-signed Marlon Mack and they re-signed T.Y. Hilton. Other than that, nothing else changed in terms of their weapons. They took their first round pick and used it on Kwity Paye. Not sure what they thought they needed a defensive end for when they had one of the best defensive units in football last year. Actually, that seemed to be a common trend in this division this year. Good defenses drafted more defense. Forget about the offense. They don't need to score points, I guess. Carson Wentz can only do so much with Michael Pittman, Marlon Mack, and T.Y. Hilton. Because I can tell you right now, Jack Doyle isn't going to get it done at tight end. Marlon Mack has Jonathan Taylor, I believe, backing him up. So, and by backing him up, I mean Jonathan Taylor realistically is probably going to be the starting running back. Marlon Mack's going to come in on pass plays, and it's going to get extremely formulaic and extremely predictable so that anybody will know exactly what they're doing when somebody's on the field. But let's talk about Kwity Paye. Michigan. A nice Michigan defensive end product, 21st pick in the first round of the 2021 NFL Draft. He's got explosive power. He's got quick hands. His size compared to his pursuit speed, give it a 10 out of 10. Easily. Probably the best pursuer in this draft class at his size. The downside, he lacks natural instincts and basic awareness of the game. He's only had 19 college starts, and he has a very, very choppy play style. And when I say choppy, I mean much like Jamie Collins when he first came into the league, he's all over the field where he's not supposed to be. Brandon, how are you? Thank you for joining us. It's nice to hear from you. Let me know what you think about the draft and how the AFC South teams did. We are focusing on the AFC South. Frex, welcome to the party. Eva Marie is back, and we will be talking about that in about 20 minutes when we start Ringside Roundup with Martin and Craith. I will also be there. Let me make that very clear. That is going to be in about 20 minutes after I finish up here talking about the NFL Draft and the AFC South. To round out the Colts draft class, they took a defensive end in the second round, so 2 defensive ends right off the top, a tight end in the fourth round, Kalen Granson out of Southern Methodist. They took safety Sean Davis in the fifth round. They took quarterback Sam Ehlinger out of Texas in the sixth round. And in the seventh round, they took wide receiver Mike Strachan and guard Will Fries. No steals. Brandon thinks the AFC South did fine. You missed me in talking about the Texans, but I'll swing back real quick. Their first pick was in the third round, and they took a quarterback named Davis Mills. They absolutely needed to. I get that. They took Nico Collins. Absolutely. I love Nico Collins. Great deep receiver. But it depends on who's throwing him the ball, because if you got Davis Mills who throws into traffic too much throwing Nico Collins the ball, you're going to get a lot of interceptions. And the rest of their draft was a bunch of Nothing really stood out about the Texans draft. My offseason grade for the Texans is a D. Going to the Colts, back to the Colts, they really needed to shore up their offensive line outside of Quentin Nelson, and they didn't. They got a seventh-round guard who's probably only ever going to see the light of day if somebody gets injured. D-line wasn't concerned. They have DeForest Buckner in the middle, and Kwity Paye and Deo. I hate some of these guys' names. I'm going to be honest. Ade Ingbo. I'm going to have to look up a pronunciation of that because I definitely just slaughtered that. Brandon, I agree with your grade for offseason for Houston. Yeah, I mean, if they were taking under $2 million and 1 year, Houston was willing to sign you. Didn't matter who you were. They signed way too many people. It was an ugly offseason, but they got to start somewhere. My Colts offseason, I don't like Carson Wentz. I don't think Carson Wentz is fixable. I don't think going back to Frank Reich is going to fix him. My offseason grade for the Indianapolis Colts is a C+. We're going to move on to the Tennessee Titans. Key free agent signings, we had Denico Autry, Bud Dupree, and Janoris Jenkins. Another top defense that was specifically focusing on defense in this offseason. Brandon, I missed my call from Houston. So did I, man. I saw it come in, went straight to caller ID. Caller ID. Saw the caller ID, it went straight to voicemail. They didn't leave me a voicemail. I should have answered. Would have got signed. First round pick for the Titans was Caleb Farley, and Caleb Farley was one of my favorite prospects in this entire draft class. He's big, he's long, he hassles wide receivers with that length, and with that size, he's just all over these smaller receivers. He's great in zone coverage, absolutely lights out in zone coverage. Given how little he got playtime at Virginia Tech, there's a very good chance he has a potential for rapid growth in the NFL to be an instant game changer. His fundamentals lack, though, and that can be taught. You can reteach a kid the fundamentals of football. Caleb Farley needs that taught to him, and I think Mike Vrabel and that defensive coaching staff is the perfect option to do it. He struggles when he has to backpedal. If you never watched Caleb Farley, you'll notice two things. He outmuscles receivers as long as he doesn't have to backpedal them. If he has to backpedal to keep up, they're probably going to burn him. He tends to be more reactive than instinctive, and he misses big tackles that lead to touchdowns. Jay, that better be a joke, my man. We covered Mac Jones yesterday, and this is my response to the Patriots drafting Mac Jones right here. The rest of the Titans draft class, Dylan Radunez, which is an offensive tackle, Monty Rice, a linebacker, another cornerback in the third round. They took Elijah Molden, who was a sleeper. He probably should have been higher up. More teams should have. Jay, aren't you on a train today? In the comments, Jay says, I was on a train yesterday. I'm pretty sure he was on a train. He's on a train today, too. And he will not be joining us for Ringside Roundup in 13 minutes. Elijah Molden has the instincts that Caleb Farley doesn't. And with the Titans losing Malcolm Butler and Logan Ryan, they needed cornerbacks. And they got two very good ones in this draft. Elijah Molden is a versatile defender with a very competitive nature, and he's not going to let you just burn him. It's not going to happen. His play recognition is already at NFL level. Let's go to the downfalls of Elijah Molden, because we're not all about the good. We're not all about the great here. He lacks acceleration, causing himself to get burned downfield. Now, I know that may sound like it contradicts what I just said, but his competitive nature, when he doesn't have to accelerate, if he's set back a little bit, he's all set. He's not going to get burned. If he's coming off the line, he's getting burned because he just lacks that acceleration for a speedy receiver. And he tends to bite on the play action bait a little bit too much. Brandon in the comments says, one thing I was shocked about the draft, there was not a lot of trade in the top 10 like I thought we would see. I don't think there was a single trade in the top 10, minus San Francisco before it happened. I know we had Chicago move up to 11. But yeah, top 5 stayed the same. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Yeah, they all stayed right there on par with where they were. And our first trade came at 11 when Chicago moved up, which we'll get into probably next week. I'll probably do AFC this week, NFC next week. In the fourth round of the draft, the Titans took Dez Fitzpatrick, wide receiver. They took another wide receiver in the 6th round, and they took a defensive end and a safety. They needed wide receivers. They took 2 wide receivers. I would have liked to see them take a wide receiver a little bit earlier, but we all know there's 4 wide receivers in this draft class and then a significant drop-off in the talent of wide receiver. So if you weren't a first-round wide receiver, it was free game throughout the rest of the draft where and when you were going to go. That was the circumstance for the Titans. They didn't get either of those top 4, and they're like, all right, we'll wait. And they waited all the way to the 4th round. Not bad. Not a bad game plan. They still have A.J. Brown. Corey Davis is up in New York now, so they lost him. Jono Smith is in New England. They lost him. They probably could have used the tight end. They also lost Anthony Ferkser. So it's going to be interesting to see how that offense runs. Basically with A.J. Brown and Derrick Henry now. Unless I'm forgetting somebody. I feel like I'm forgetting somebody in the wide receiver spot there. Humphries? No, I think he's gone too. I'm pretty sure Adam Humphries is gone too. So yeah, they have nobody besides Derrick Henry and A.J. Brown. And Ryan Tannehill cannot win football games like that. You can focus on your defense all you want. But if your quarterback can't go downfield, what are you going to do? You're going to sit there and you're going to get annihilated. And this is going to be we're going to see the Titans probably in the top 15 next year, probably take a wide receiver, probably start surrounding Ryan Tannehill with a little bit of artillery. Because right now, focusing on complete defense was not the move. They needed cornerbacks. Caleb Farley in the first round, great move. Offensive tackle, I guess I can get behind that. I mean, I would have liked to see a wide receiver right there in the second round with the 53rd pick. And then you went linebacker, cornerback, and you waited till the 4th round for the wide receiver. So you either really believe in this kid, Des Fitzpatrick, or you didn't trust any of the wide receivers till the 4th round came around. My offseason grade in total for them, B-. I didn't mind them not picking up receivers. I think it would have been nice for them to pick up receivers. I still think I'm forgetting somebody that they have. Tennessee Titans roster. Let's take a look. A.J. Brown, Josh Reynolds, Des Fitzpatrick. Yeah, so it looks like I'm right. It looks like they don't really have any solid wide receiver beyond A.J. Brown. Cody Hollister. Oh, they do have Adam Humphries still. So Adam Humphries and A.J. Brown are not going to carry that team. It's that simple. Let's move into my new favorite team, the Jacksonville Jaguars. Obviously, we all knew Trevor Lawrence was going 1 overall. I don't think anybody in the world thought anybody else had a chance of going 1 overall between him having the playbook and Urban Meyer scheduling his surgery. He's elite. He's already going to be a problem in the NFL. He's a dual threat quarterback, and he understands how to protect himself when he's on the run. So the quarterbacks that take unnecessary shots, like Lamar Jackson, you're not going to see that from Trevor Lawrence. Not unless it's a late, dirty hit. You're going to see Lawrence get down. You're going to see Lawrence just take the yards he can get and call it a day. Brandon says, oh, your new team now. Absolutely. As per the hat that I ordered on draft night. Had to make sure I got to rep the squad. Got to rep the squad. So what are the downfalls of Trevor Lawrence? Because in this entire lead up to the draft, what did we not talk about? Trevor Lawrence. We really talked about who's going 2, 3, 4, 5 in the quarterbacks. We all knew Trevor Lawrence was going number 1, and nobody talked about it. So what are his downfalls? Well, making bad throws rather than taking a sack is his number 1 downfall. It's okay to take a sack every now and again if you need to, my man. It's not that big of a deal. When you make a bad throw, you're more inclined to throw an interception, frankly, because you just weren't able to set your football. Brandon asks, does Trevor have a lot on his shoulder from day one? I don't think so. Do we expect Trevor to be the savior of Jacksonville? Absolutely. That is going to happen. Do I think day one he's going to come in and be like, I got to win the Super Bowl this year or I'm getting fired? No, that's ridiculous. He's a rookie quarterback. Jacksonville's probably not going to make the playoffs this year. They're probably going to have a 6-win season at best. And then next year, they're going to surround him with more talent. The question mark of Jacksonville this year in their draft was later in the first round. They had a second first-round pick, still from the Jalen Ramsey trade, and they took running back Travis Aetna, also out of Clemson, Trevor Lawrence's teammate. Did James Robinson not have a stellar year last year? Did I imagine that? Did I see that in Madden? Like, why are they taking a running back in the first round if James Robinson is a premier running back? It's after one season. We don't know how he's going to regress or progress. But still, he came out last year out of the gate and instantly destroyed defenses. So why are you drafting a running back in the first round if it's not truly a need? Martins in the comments says, I know this is a football show, but since Trevor is in Jacksonville, it's only a matter of time until Trevor Lawrence shows up in the crowd during Dynamite. That's AEW Dynamite for those that don't know, and I don't think he's really going to do that. What good does that do anybody? You're gonna want to promote that, number one. And number two, how much crossover are you really going to get? He's not, I wouldn't call him a star name in the NFL out of day one. It's not a good time to do that. It doesn't make sense to do that from a business point of view. Travis Aetna out of Clemson. Still don't understand this. Quite frankly, I don't understand this draft pick at all. He is an all-around, all-three down back. So is James Robinson. The upside to Aetna is that he has 16 career touchdowns in college that went for 44 yards or more. And he has 78 total touchdowns in his 4 years at Clemson. His ball security is average at best. He has a fumbling problem. He takes very long strides for short spaces. So if he's not in the open field, his stride is just a little bit too long. And in the passing game, he has a dropping the ball problem. So you're going to use him as a pure muscle back and use Robinson as a receiving back? Ooh, oh, man, I need a nap already. And they had 3 more picks in the first or in the draft. They took an offensive tackle, a tight end, and a wide receiver, which tells me that they think their defense is all set. I thought they were going to grab another cornerback. They did not. They took all offense and whitewashed the entire draft of offense. Given that they got Trevor Lawrence, they got the future quarterback, they got a very, very good player in Travis Aetna, regardless of why I think it's a head scratcher of a pick. They got an offensive tackle, which was a huge need for them. I have to say their offseason grade is an A-. Hands down, an A-. Very, very, very good. I lied. I completely forgot I had a second sheet to this. They also took cornerback. I was right. I knew I wasn't crazy. In the second round, they took Tyson Campbell. I forgot this is the one team that I had to do 2 sides of the paper with. That's on me. They didn't whitewash the defense or the offense. They took a safety, a defensive tackle, and a defensive end as well. Big free agent moves were Philip Dorsett, Marvin Jones, Roy Robertson Harris, Shaq Griffin, and they re-signed Sidney Jones and Josh Jones. Good moves. Like I said, I gave them an A-. We all know I'm crazy. Yeah, that's an understatement, Brandon. Brandon, if you want to come on and talk about Minnesota next week, let me know. I'll let you know when I'm doing the NFC North. Ladies and gentlemen, I got to get over and shoot over to Ringside Roundup. Hopefully you join us there. We'll be talking about wrestling and everything going on in the wrestling world. Be a friend, tell a friend, like, share, comment. I appreciate every single one of you. Have a good night.